I'd now like to yield to Congressman King for an introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your deference. I have a markup going on in another committee, and I'm afraid I have to slip out. But I wanted to have the opportunity to introduce Mr. Gary Malenke. He's a constituent of mine from Sioux Center, Iowa, and I'll say the center of the #1 pork-producing congressional district in America. He's the CEO of Natural Food Holdings, which was formerly known as the Supreme Packing Company, and that's also located in Sioux Center, Iowa. Gary graduated from Northwest Iowa Technical College in 1985 with an associate degree in agribusiness. After 2 years in the livestock and feed business and 1 year at Iowa Beef Packers, Gary joined Supreme Packing Company. And while at the company, he held positions starting with hog buyer, then head of livestock procurement and community sales. And in 2001, he became the president of the company. And he's currently serving as chairman of the North American Meat Packers Association, and his business is also an active member of the U.S. Meat Export Federation and the National Meat Association. Mr. Malenke's company is a prime example of a kind of a small packing plant that's so important to local communities, the small businesses that we've been talking about in the earlier panel. And the overall industry competitiveness is reflected by his company. It's important that we think about these businesses, Mr. Chairman, especially because when they deal with specialty and niche markets, it's not just large companies. We evaluate rules and see how they affect the small companies as well. So I want to thank Mr. Malenke and the other witnesses for being here to testify today. And I think it's important we turn our ear to the interests of the industry. And I'd point out also that Mr. Malenke's company is, again, from the #1 pork-producing congressional district in America. I couldn't leave that commercial out, Mr. Chairman. I welcome all the witnesses. I thank you for your indulgence, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. Malenke, if you'd like to go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. Good morning, Sorry, that's better. Good morning, Chairman Tipton and Ranking Member Kritz. I appreciate this opportunity. As Congressman King said, we're up in Sioux Center, Iowa. Our firm isn't large enough to be classified in the top 10 hog slaughter plants, but nevertheless, we've been in business for over 40 years, and I've had the privilege of being in the meat industry for over 20 years myself. We're proud to have arrangements with a number of producers to bring us hogs that fit various niche markets with whom we have marketing agreements under various brands. And to do this, we're looking for very specific hogs that require growers to follow very specific protocols. Our producers are then paid a premium for meeting these expectations. And these products are then sold into markets, restaurants that differentiate our products to create an enhanced value. To accomplish this, we work with well over 500 growers, many of which are small family farmers. And we do this to really to produce a consistent supply of product to our customers. And I'm sensitive to the feelings in the countryside that producers aren't getting a fair deal. I and my senior staff are involved in industry organizations really to give a little and to gain a lot in terms of advice and resources to better help us as business leaders. And indeed, I happen to be the chairman of one of those associations at this time. At a recent meeting that I attended, I visited with a young man who inspired me to reach back to producers and to give back to the men and women, families who produce hogs for our business. I want these producers to know as much about fixing a fair price for pork as they do about the business of raising hogs. A couple suggestions I might have in ways that we can work together. Meeting consumer expectations for pork at retail and or at the center of the plate is critical. I and my organizations can develop better programs to help producers better understand how we can work together. Working together every week of the year for the long haul and better share and communicate with each other what it takes for these programs to be successful in meeting consumer expectations. There's already a great deal of information in the marketplace about the price for hogs and for pig meat. And I'll agree that this can be very complicated. It's not always as accessible and could perhaps use some improvement. But nevertheless, I'm committed to working with the organizations I belong to enhance transparency and information that would be useful to producers. I believe that the enhancements set forth in current legislation would also be helpful. I also know that one of the organizations in which we hold membership has been meeting with USDA's marketing officials to improve the information for specifically pork price reporting. I expect these efforts to be useful in improving the flow of information. I grew up on a small farm myself some 30 years ago and have witnessed firsthand the changes to rural America. There's no longer a hardware store, a grocery store in small towns. Numerous school districts emerged, and the economies of scale have been driven by the Walmarts of the world. This trend is not the fault of big business. It's driven by the changing consumer. Folks like Walmart have done a great job of attracting customers. Face it, thousands of people shop there every day because they choose to do so. As much as I desire to look back with nostalgia, the realities of the economic forces today are very strong. GIPSA's attempt to regulate the future by returning the way that things used to be will be a bad economic decision and will not succeed. In the summer of 2009, our business wasn't very good, and we weren't profitable. Fortunately, this year we're doing much better. And I know it's because of both domestic demand and improved exports. In 2009, the price of hogs were some 30 to 35% lower than in 2010, and we lost money. In 2010, we have this improved demand, and we did much better because of the market conditions, and even in light of the fact that the price of the livestock was higher. And my point is really this. The primary influence of the price of livestock is the demand for the finished products we produce. It's customers coming in the door buying the product. This is a tough business. It's a tough business for producers and for packers. Working together in partnership and cooperation will give us the opportunity to be successful together. I'm not here to cry about the large firms. Their very largeness really denies them the flexibility that we enjoy at Natural Food Holdings. We don't need GIPSA, a government regulatory agency, in our business plan. Enhancing our partnerships with producers for the mutual benefit is a much better solution. And I thank you for allowing me to testify. I'd be happy to take any questions.